Hey Wes,
Hey, man.
you want to hear a knock knock joke?
Sure.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Candace.
Candace who?
Candace, Bible fit in your hand? Ha! Ha!
Good one.
Anyway, welcome to Christ in Culture, where we talk about culture and we learn how to put Christ in it. Today's episode is going to be a pretty interesting one because we're going to be examining society as a whole. So, Wes, what do you want for your birthday?
Really don't know because my birthday was like last week.
Well, your birthday was last week.
Yeah.
What did you want for your birthday?
I'm really good.
You're really good?
Yeah.
That's-
There's really nothing that I need.
Yeah. Well, my birthday is next month. It's literally less than a month away.
So the real question is, what do you want for your birthday?
That's the thing. Don't really want or need anything. Seems to be that way for the past 3 or 4 years. Haven't really wanted or needed anything. I mean, anytime I was asked, like for Christmas or my birthday, what do you want? I don't know. Money. I mean, it's really about all I can use right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the things that I do want, I'm not going to ask someone to. I'm either not going to ask someone to buy it for me, or no person can provide me.
Gotcha.
So it just comes down to I don't really want or need anything, and it seems that way as you get older. That you get less like fun gifts and more practical gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been getting clothes a lot the past few years. I'll ask for like a new shirt or something. I'll get the occasional pack of underwear or socks.
Those are always very practical.
Those are always very, very practical. My mom doesn't like it when I use the four-fold method. Yeah.
Wow.
So she
That went deep.
that did go deep. I'm just kidding. I do not do the four-fold method. I'm just letting y'all know we don't do that here.
I've had my questions.
Change your underwear every day, please. Anyway, so I don't really want or need anything. So the question I want to ask you is, what gift do you give someone that doesn't want or need anything?
That's pretty hard to do.
It's very hard to do.
That's why gift cards are the number one best-selling gift.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I'll get a gift. I'll usually get like a gas gift card or something from my grandparents. Because, like I said, the things that I want, it's not something I'm going to ask someone to buy for me because that's something that I want to buy for myself.
Sure.
Either it costs too much money or it's like a really niche thing that I know specifically what I want, and I don't want anybody else to mess up buying it, and then, that whole spiel.
Yes.
But so it's very hard to get a gift someone that doesn't want or need anything. How hard is it to sell to someone that doesn't want or need anything?
It's pretty almost impossible.
It's
Because
almost
unless they actually see that they need it, there's a lot of things in life that really comes down to the nitty gritty of either you do need it or you don't need it. But there's a lot of things that are out there that you actually do need, but you just haven't discovered it yet. Mm-hmm. That's how marketing does everything for them.
Mm-hmm. They have whole marketing teams to put out advertisements and social media campaigns. Like right now, TikTok is getting, I mean, it's been huge for a while, but with the marketing, TikTok started allowing ads a few months ago. And like since then, you see like, it's like a corporate takeover at TikTok.
Yeah.
You're scrolling through and these are people on a free app doing this for free. They're hiring people specifically to create TikTok accounts and making TikToks to promote their brand. There's this one brand of water. No, not waters. It was smoothies. I don't remember the name of it, but it's primarily popular over in the UK. and they created a TikTok account. And the whole premise of the TikTok account is copying another smoothie brand's content. Like, that has been their goal from the beginning, is as a joke, hey, let's copy this other smoothie brands, and it worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
People are commenting on there, it's like, hey, I've never wanted to try this smoothie before, but you know what? I want to now because this is funny.
Mm-hmm.
This looks exactly like theirs, except y'all are being like very blatant about it and very upfront about it. So I kind of want to try it, even if it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So we see what marketing can do when selling to people that don't really want something.
That really brings a really good thought in as we get into our podcast today. And that is, we live in a society, especially over here in the U.S., that people don't really recognize that they are rich.
Oh yeah,
You
live in America. You live in America. You are the 1%.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is that even the poorest of the poor is richer in this country than almost everybody in the third world country.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question to you is, Noah, since America is so rich, how do we actually apply that the American people actually still need something, whether they acknowledge it or not? How do we do that?
Well, that's what we hope we can figure out today. But first, before we can even do that, we need to examine what about American culture prevents them from wanting or needing anything.
That's right.
You can buy the latest toy for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, see the commercials on the TV, say, hey, Mom, I want that toy right there. Okay. And then my birthday would come up, and then there was the latest toy. Like, I remember growing up, I loved watching Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of my favorite shows.
I was right there with you.
When they came out with the movie a few years ago, I was so excited, and I am still waiting for the second movie because they were supposed to make a whole series out of that. But there was this one Power Rangers toy that came out, and it was a pretty hefty toy. It probably came up to about my knees.
Mm-hmm.
It was about knee high, and it transformed.
Mm-hmm.
You had like a little switch on the back of it that you hit, and it would like turn from like Megazord mode to helicopter mode, and the thing on top of it would spin.
Mm-hmm.
It would also shoot something out of its chest. You could load like little shots in it, and it'll shoot it out of its chest. Mm-hmm. It was like the coolest thing that I had ever seen, and I got it for my birthday one year, and I was so excited. Mm-hmm. But then after like 2 weeks, I gave it up. I all I did was play with it for 2 weeks, and then I was just bored with it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was no more getting anything out of it. So then I moved on to the next toy. Mm-hmm. Moved on to the next toy. Then I moved on to video games. Mm-hmm. Now that has taken control a good bit. Like, even now, I have a PC that I built just for video games. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what attracts me, and I look for the next game. I beat a game, I look for the next one. Mm-hmm. For me, there's very little replayability in games. That's just how my mind works. About the only one that I seem to go back over and over again is Skyrim and City Skylines. It's the only two. But I'm looking for the next game. I'm looking for the next thing, the next movie, the next TV show. You could buy the fastest car.
Or the biggest trucks.
Or the biggest trucks. Like, you see car companies putting out campaigns saying you can drive this car for 2 years, and after those 2 years, you can trade the car that you just bought in for the next new model. Mm-hmm. Their whole marketing is to keep you in debt buying another car. Mm-hmm. So here's the car.
You never pay off the vehicle. You automatically continue every single year to have a payment.
Every single year for the next however long until you get tired of trading cars in, you're driving a brand new car every year, every 2 years. I mean, they're doing the same way with phones now. Mm-hmm. Like phones are not cars. They last literally maybe 2 years, but they're now at you keep it for 1 year. You won't fully pay it off because you're on like a 2.5 year payment plan. You keep it after a year, you can trade it in for the next phone.
I mean, some of the newest phones that are out there are some like $1,000 phones.
This phone right here, I've got the iPhone 12. I'm on a payment plan on it. It costs me $80 a month right now. I like it, but I really didn't want it because there's not much difference between the 12 and the 11. I mean, there's just the difference between like the cameras maybe. But you know what the price difference was?
How much?
This, with the company that I bought it through, it goes through the state, allows us to purchase technology and stuff. This was $1,200. The iPhone 11 was $700. It was a $500 difference for what I see as a very minuscule difference. There was no difference, but it was marketed as this next great thing, this next big thing.
You got to keep up with the times, and that's what a U.S. is all about. I've got to keep up with what the phrase is. I got to keep up with the Joneses.
Got to keep up with me.
I've got to
that's
keep
my last
up.
name.
Yeah, there you go. I've got to keep on keeping up with the latest things, and even in society itself. Think about our kids, right? Our kids are even growing up in a society that if they don't have the latest fashion or if they don't have the latest technology or whatever, they're being bullied and looked down upon by saying that you are yesterday's child.
Or you're dressing like some other group of people.
Exactly. And that is so sad that we judge people and that people are being bullied and everything like that because of the material things. And that just sets the standard for the culture, especially here in the U.S., because whether they really recognize it or not, we are all rich. We are every single bit rich. And I know that sometimes people say, well, no, I don't see myself as being rich. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you had to walk somewhere? When was the last time that you actually went hungry? I'm not talking about missing just one meal. I'm talking about went hungry because all of your crops and all this other stuff has actually been destroyed by animals.
Well, I had to walk in Walmart the other day.
Oh, well, ain't that convenient, right?
Well, the best sign to show that you're rich is that you can walk into a grocery store and buy any food that you want.
There you go.
For any diet.
There you go.
I was walking through Walmart the other day and there was a whole gluten-free section.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 years ago, no gluten-free section. But now there is one because there are people that don't eat gluten either for actual health reasons. They might be allergic to gluten, which is a very
That's a legitimate thing.
It's a real thing. But then there's people that refuse to eat gluten.
Yeah.
Because they're on a very low carb diet, the keto diet. You have people that go on the paleo diet. They have people that go on the carnivore diet. I mean, you can walk into a grocery store and literally tailor. If I could afford that diet, I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
But about all I could afford was probably chicken.
Yeah.
But you can walk into Walmart. We got Publix. You got Whole Foods. You've got Trader Joe's. You've got all these different grocery stores catered around different needs, and you can just walk in there and tailor your diet around any of them.
Let me tell you, I actually heard about a family that lived over there in Africa that, honestly, these individuals grow their crops, and their crops are what they depend on eating for the year. Now, mind you, all right, for the year. They heard some noise outside. They came outside, and they found that an elephant had just walked all the way through all their crops. They had nothing left. So in all reality, there went their food
for the whole year.
For the year.
Because an elephant walked through.
Because an elephant walked through.
Elephant walked through a Walmart, we just go to the next Walmart.
That's all we do.
Or we get the pig.
You can think about the worst of pandemics. Now, I know that we think about 2020 and thinking about the toilet paper, thinking about the
Don't even get me started on that.
Oh, I know. But you think about 2020 being about the toilet paper, about the disinfecting wipes, all this other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next question I've got to ask is, okay, so we didn't have disinfecting wipes, we didn't have toilet paper and things like that. You know what? We had to go back to the way that people used to do it before toilet paper. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, how degrading is this? What are you talking about?
Degrading?
Degrading? That we have to go back to older fashions before we've had our modern conveniences? I mean, in all reality, it's insane how our American people think. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, we don't have toilet paper. Everybody goes into a panic. Really? We don't have disinfecting wipes. Really? I mean,
hey, you got fat? You got any lye at the house? There you go. You got the most basic. You got the most basic soap there is.
You mean to tell me that I have to do something now? I mean, you think about a little virus.
Concerning toilet paper, I almost did buy a bidet this past year because I almost bought one. I was this close. I almost bought one.
I mean, going back to our original story, okay? No, but think about this. If it takes one thing, being a virus, that is, one thing, and it causes major catastrophe, what does that say about our society?
Says a lot.
It says a lot.
It says a lot how we're spoiled.
And then you even think about, okay, there's no toilet paper, right? The whole entire United States goes into a panic.
Mm-hmm. They're fighting each other.
They're willing to kill each other over this type of stuff. What does that say about a culture? I mean,
we just want things.
We want things. We are so materialistic in mind that if we don't, get what we think that we need. Mm-hmm. Now, understand, there is a big difference in needs and wants.
Oh, yes.
And what Americans have done, and I've been guilty of it as well, and I've got to keep myself in check on this, making sure that what I have, what I say I need, is not something that is just a want that I've said that I need. Mm-hmm. I mean, can I get by with it? If I can get by with it, if I have lived this long without it, mm-hmm. Is it possible to not have it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely it is. But you think about, you hit one materialistic thing mm-hmm. in a country and everybody goes berserk, mm-hmm. that then tells us what our problem is.
Right now there's a chip shortage, and because of that, graphics cards for computers, me and my buddies have been mm-hmm. we still have unfinished PCs that we haven't finished building because we can't get the graphics cards we want. Mm-hmm. And like, we're stressing out over it, but now it's to the point it's like I don't even want it anymore. Yeah. You have a shortage on new cars right now. People are waiting months to go buy a brand new car off the lot. Yeah. And people are upset over that. It's like, I want my 2021 Toyota Tacoma that I'm paying $42,000 for. It's like, well, you got to wait. You got to wait 4 months. I don't want to wait 4 months. I want it now. Mm-hmm. I want it now.
We have a country that has no idea what patience is at all.
Mm-hmm. So that begs the question, how do you give salvation to a people that don't want or need anything?
It really comes down to a soul problem. And I mean, whenever we were getting ready for this podcast, mm-hmm. something that we were doing, as I was mentioning to you, that it's the same thing as what even happened with the Jews in the first century. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to be about materialistic things. It all comes from a mindset of understanding, do I need something? Do I want what I need? Or do I not? I mean, it's either we have our eyes wide open mm-hmm. or we have them totally shut. Mm-hmm. Unless an individual gets to the point of saying that I need something, they're never going to see it. Mm-hmm.
So to answer this question, I want to look at a couple things. First thing I want to look at is, why did the early church grow so quickly?
It wasn't because they were blissfully blessed in materialistic things, and
They weren't?
no, they weren't.
Joel Osteen told me I'd get a lot of money if I gave him $1,000.
Well, he's also a profiting preacher too,
You got a point there.
and he calls himself a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the fact of the matter is, you look back into the first century, you have a society that was overran and governed by the Roman government.
Mm-hmm.
The Roman government had a specific thing that was very unique with them. They had the iron rule, okay? And in order to do that, they had to say that I'm going to limit the education of individuals. I'm going to overpower them to the point that they're going to do whatever I tell them to do when I tell them to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, do you remember how in Matthew chapter 6 in the model prayer there, he says, give us this day our daily bread, right? They lived in a society that they were so poor because they were very uneducated individuals in the first century.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
They didn't have
But
what we have today.
culturally, the Roman government gave each family one loaf of bread a day. And literally, that's what he's talking about there in that text. Give us this day our daily bread.
Mm-hmm.
They did that, and they had to do that because they were so poor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, think about that and how that culture is, and then see about America.
You have a culture that is so deprived of what they actually need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Not want, need.
not want, need. It was harder to get fresh water then.
Mm-hmm.
You see all over the Roman Empire the use of aquifers to transport water.
Mm-hmm.
We even see where Timothy was when Paul told him to mix a little wine with the water.
Mm-hmm.
The water there was so stale and so stagnant, you couldn't just drink straight water. You had to have something to cleanse that water.
Mm-hmm.
But when we compare that to America today, you can walk in any gas station and get clean water for the most part. You can
You
knock
can get water in a bottle that's been purified, all that at your expense.
Good-s1e picks their water out of Pensacola. Good-s1e that delivers through Coca-Cola gets their water out of Pensacola. You can get water from anywhere, and it can be purified. They can get ocean water and purify it. Now, it's more expensive, but they can do it. We have the technology today to get these things. But we see there was persecution in the first century, both from the Jews and even the Romans.
Sure.
You have Saul, who ravaged Christians all across Judea. You see him; he was responsible for the killing of Stephen. We see that the Jews laid their clothes down at his feet, and Saul was a Pharisee. He was essentially a leader of the Jews. And then you even have the Romans. The Romans were literally crucifying Christians. Peter was crucified upside down because he didn't feel like he was worthy enough to be crucified right side up. You see him thrown into the Roman Colosseum. You see him thrown to the lions, to the tigers.
Drawn and quartered.
Fighting.
Meat being hung around the individuals and being devoured by dogs.
And then you even have them
Lit on fire.
Stuck on posts, lit on fire to light the way to Rome under Nero.
Yeah. To light his gardens. And he thought that was something that was so beautiful.
But what he didn't realize is that when fellow Christians see each other struggling, we know how to deal with it. We can pull together. Because nobody's going to die for something that they don't believe in.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen the Apostle Paul movie?
I have not.
You need to see that. And understanding that in all of that, now there are a couple of things that I don't necessarily agree with, okay, because it is Hollywood.
Yeah.
But it was very close to the record of Acts, okay? And basically it's Luke that's walking around with Paul and all this other stuff. Well, Luke I hate to spoil this for individuals. There is one point where a person is about to be lit on fire. Luke sees him and he's hiding around the corner, and he's about to go out to like try to save him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Christian looks over at Luke and just shakes his head no. Now, you have to think, I mean, that type of stuff went on.
Oh, yeah.
And to see your fellow brother or sister being put on, about to be a Human Torch,
Mm-hmm.
and they look at each other going, no, don't do that and risk your own self.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what person would die for something that they did not fully believe in?
Only an insane person would.
Yes. And I mean, I know that we have like kamikazes during World War II and things like that with the Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
We had individuals like even in the Muslim religion today that they say Allah Akbar, which simply
It means praise be to God.
praise be to God.
But we know what it really
praise
means.
be to Allah.
Yeah,
is what it is.
praise be to Allah.
And they think that what they're doing in their murdering, and that's all that they're doing is murdering innocent victims. I mean, a person would not do that type of stuff unless they fully believed in what they believed in.
But even comparing those two things, if they came back alive, they wouldn't be alive much longer.
No. And the unique thing is, here in America, we don't have, as Christians, the same type of persecution that they were going through in the first century.
The persecution we have today is trivial.
I mean, think about this. Somebody said a mean word to me. Oh.
They said, I can't say a prayer in school today.
Oh.
Oh, poor thing. Are you still alive?
Yeah.
Can you still go home and read your Bible?
Somebody unfriended me on Facebook.
Because I said being gay was wrong.
Yeah.
Because I said that drinking was wrong. Because I said whatever.
I mean, you think about that type of persecution. That's really what we call persecution. Now, I've got to ask you a question. Do you think that if we went through that type, if the first century Christians went through the persecution, what we call persecution today, do you think they would accept that with an open arms?
There probably wouldn't be as many either.
And they probably wouldn't be as many either. Why?
Because there wasn't anything to steal themselves with. There was no fire to forge themselves.
There you go. If there's nothing that's really challenging us, you start seeing Christianity die off.
Mm-hmm.
And
if you're
so
constantly not growing, if you're constantly not being tested, if you're constantly not being tested, why do you think weightlifters go to the gym all the time? They're pushing their boundaries. They're literally ripping apart their muscles at a microscopic level so that they can rebuild bigger and stronger. So when we lose one of our own, they die overseas. We see with the military, the friends that people watch their friends die right in front of them because they've been shot.
Yeah.
And what does it do to them? It'll do one of two things: completely break them down, or it'll steal them stronger, more convicted than they ever have been.
That's right.
But if someone that will have pretty much lost their mind seeing that, they see another person that is fully convicted, they see a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right.
They see someone that has pulled themselves out of what could be a very bad situation and put themselves in a good situation.
That's right.
So why did the early church grow so quickly? Because they had to temper themselves a lot better than we do today.
They were constantly tested.
Now,
tested. Now, don't get me wrong. I know the listeners right now are saying, oh, well, that means that we really don't have any persecution. Here's the thing. It is persecution to an extent. And I do see it if America doesn't change its ways.
Oh, yeah.
If we don't get the right leaders in,
Oh, yeah.
it's going to get worse.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's already getting to the point of where certain states have actually mandated no gatherings at all. I actually saw a Facebook video of a guy who, I don't think he was a member of the church, but they had church services in his own house with his own family. Now get this. with him just doing that and the police getting word of it, they came and arrested the dad for doing that. See, now that in and of itself is not a mandate of state. That's not the problem. They were attacking religion.
Mm-hmm.
And
Up in Canada, there have been several Catholic
Yes.
churches that have been burned down.
yeah.
That is actual persecution right there.
And even the gospel preachers being arrested, being broken up, and all this other stuff. I mean,
Like Stefan Maillet, when he had
that's
his
what I was about to say.
when he had his service broken up and
Yeah.
the police told him to leave, that's persecution.
That is persecution, where they're trying to, and the persecution is not in reference to this whole COVID deal. They're using that as a scheme.
They're using that as an excuse,
to
as a
attack
reasoning to break
Christianity,
in.
religion. That's exactly what it is. Because the fact is, they're not persecuting these other Christians, or not. Or
They're not going to mosques.
They're
not going to tabernacles.
No, they're not.
They're going to
these
churches.
other religions. They're attacking Christianity, and that's what they're going after. Now, America's going that way.
Oh yeah.
All right. Now, in respects of now being banned on Facebook for doing spiritual type stuff and everything like that, that just tells us what their attack is for. Now,
yeah.
if we don't get the right leaders in, we're going to be starting to suffer a little bit of that persecution that they were suffering in the first century.
Oh yeah.
We are already at the hem of the garment of that. But understand, my friends, it's going to get a lot worse. But whenever those times do come, what are you going to do?
You'd have to temper yourself.
What are we going to do? It means that we're going to either be Christians or we're going to be playing Christians. And the thing is, those of us who are playing Christians are going to be the ones that you're not going to be finding anymore.
And I think we've already found that out with COVID.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because COVID was just an attack on religion, right? Now,
It turned into that.
It's a sickness. I had it. Okay, I had COVID and all this other stuff. I got through it. It was bad, right? But the fact of the matter is, it was more of an attack upon the spiritual stuff that was going on, trying to divide homes and trying to divide families and things like that. That's what they were trying to do. They're trying to break down this country. But the fact is, it was a test for our spirituality. I'm not saying that it was actually sent by God and all this other stuff for a test. That's not all what I'm saying at all. So don't get me wrong on that. But the fact is, it is a test. Anything we go through in real life situations is a test.
Oh yeah.
That's how we show if we are going to be true and honest to God, or we're going to be true and honest to ourselves.
I think that's what brings us to the next point.
Yes.
Is why in today's world, why does the modern church grow in third world countries but not in first world countries?
Well, you think about first world countries, they're being so rich, like what America is. We are bombarded with conveniences. We're bombarded with a point of where we literally say to ourselves, we need nothing. We're barren. I think it's very interesting. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but the way that Christ throughout his ministry actually got to people and attracted people to attract them to become followers of him,
It's through their physical needs.
he dealt with their physical needs first to give them what they needed, and then after that got their attention with the spiritual. I think there's something to learn from that.
Like, I want you to look at places like Honduras.
Yeah.
I went and did a mission trip over there. We took their physical needs. We built houses. We did a VBS. We fed. We did a medical clinic for several days, reaching out to the community. It's like, look, we're gonna take care of you, but we also want to give you something else. We want to offer you something else. We want to offer you something better beyond this world. Look at Mexico. A friend of mine, his name is John Pig. He worships at the Lake Harbor Drive Church of Christ up in Jackson. He works with the elders there under a thing called I believe it's Mexico GTO or Mission GTO, something like that. But he goes to Mexico, one specific region, planting churches, and it's like every other day there's another baptism. Church is growing there. Church is growing. But we also look at what they deal with. They deal with poverty there. They deal with persecution, mainly from the Catholic Church, because they have such a huge hold there. You have gangs there. You have the cartel dealing with all these different things that are hurting them down.
Now let me ask you this. Since the church is growing like in Honduras and India and Africa and Mexico and all that, right? Mm-hmm. Does that mean that the power of God's word is any less effective today than what it was when it was first originated in the first century?
No.
So you mean to tell me that it's still powerful?
Like I want you
today.
to get this.
Okay.
India has just about the same number of Christians in their whole country as America does. Mm-hmm. They have about 1.1 million Christians over there, and here in America we have about 1.2 to 1.4, something like that. But here's the difference: in America, that number is shrinking every year, but in India, that number is growing. Mm-hmm. They deal with persecution from Islam, from Hinduism, from Buddhism. They have to work through the caste system to reach nirvana. That is their whole religious belief over there. Mm-hmm. But what does Christianity offer that all these others do not? They offer something better in the end.
Absolutely.
You can live as the filth of the earth, but you live a godly life. Not a good life, but a godly life.
And you're the richest individual.
You are the richest individual that will ever walk this earth, because there is something waiting on the other side. Here in America, we have everything we ever want. You go to England, it's the same way. You can get anything you want. You go to Germany, anything you want. Go to China, you don't have everything you want.
No.
There may be big cities, but people are struggling there. Mm-hmm. Go to North Korea. People are literally starving there. Mm-hmm. Go to places like Vietnam and Thailand. Mm-hmm. They may have big cities, but there is a lot of poverty there. The church is growing in these third world countries.
It almost seems like that the material world that they live in fashions their heart to understand that they have a need of something. There has to be something better than this. And that's why they are listening. That's why they're
the way we are in our culture, we don't need anything better because we've already got it great.
We've already got it.
We've got it made. Mm-hmm. I've got the best looking wife. I've got the biggest house. I've got the best looking car, the fastest car, the biggest truck. I've got the best, fastest boat. I've got the biggest boat. I've got the biggest yacht. Like Jeff Bezos just bought a 1.5, I think it was $1 billion yacht.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that, but I think it was something around that figure.
Yeah.
That thing is huge, and it's the only one built like it. I think it's supposed to be the largest yacht in the world. And it's ridiculous that we are buying these things. But I think it's important to take a look at why the church is growing in these third world countries, and the first world countries it's shrinking. But also, why don't we send missionaries into our first world countries where the church is small?
Because when a group of people has that mentality that they don't need anything, they've got everything they want, and that frames the mind and the behavior of an individual, it shapes it to saying that I don't need anything else. So if you're coming in here telling me that I need something, I've already told myself I don't. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's nothing different. I mean, it doesn't really matter about, like I said at the very beginning of this podcast, it doesn't matter if you were rich, materially speaking, or not. Because in the first century, the Jews, they thought that they were of Abrahamic seed, which that's exactly what they were. But just because they were of that Abrahamic seed, all of a sudden, they don't need anything else. They are blessed, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why God said, okay, Jews, you've rejected. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the Gentiles. Mm-hmm. Because they're the ones that's wanting it. But when a person is so blessed, they don't see they need it.
Mm-hmm. I'm reminded the thing that got me thinking about this podcast was what happened to Stefan, who we mentioned a little bit earlier. It happened. Well, if you don't know who Stefan is, he's from New Brunswick, Canada. He's a French Canadian, and he came here to America. He has a Catholic background, but converted to the church. Came to America, and I think he attended Sunset, and had been preaching in Wisconsin for several years, until last year when immigration told him he had to go back to Canada. And he had 6 months to do so. And during that 6 months, he had to fight to raise support for where he was going back to. Because where he was going back to couldn't support a full-time minister. And
it's a very small congregation.
Very small congregation. I think maybe 20 people. And he was asking for $5,000 a month. Not from one individual or congregation, but from a group of individuals. I mean, you get 100 congregations just sending $50 a month. And then you have his $5,000. But there was a congregation that had been giving a hefty portion of his support every month back out several months in being in Canada. And you want to know what their reasoning was? It's too risky. Being in Canada is too risky. You don't get the results like you do in Guam or Guyana, in Tanzania. You don't get the daily baptisms. You don't get the hundreds of Bible studies in an 11-day period.
I gotta put something in right here, okay? Because this literally eats at me. When people are not, according to themselves, to their own standard, judging the growth aspect as it being a profitable work, because there's not that many members that are now coming, they're not having the conversion rate, they think it's a lost cause.
It's a numbers game to them.
It's a numbers game. You mean to tell me, I mean, like Stefan Moyet, he actually does a weekly podcast. He's out here, he's evangelizing.
At Its Souls podcast, hashtag not sponsored.
Yes. I mean, but he does all of this, right? He's out there teaching. He's trying to get the word out. We need to remember the growing aspect is not our business.
No. Who gives the increase?
God's the one that gives the increase. But what are we in the business of? We're in the business of scattering the seed. So
we're in the business of planting and watering.
So here's the thing. In all reality, if we're doing this podcast and we are spreading this out, and you think, okay, well, you might get 1,000 views or whatever, right? Well, if we don't have an immediate response to this, right? Have we not just made available to the entire world the gospel message?
Like you said the other day, we had someone from American Samoa
Yes.
watching the show the other day.
Yes.
We'll have people from the Philippines watching the show.
Yes.
You'll have people from other countries watching the show.
I had a
because they're eating it up, but we can't even get our own to watch.
I even had a few weeks ago, actually about a couple weeks ago, a guy called from India, and he says, I want to invite you to come over here and preach the gospel. I absolutely love your all's program. Okay? India called me. We have individuals from the Philippines that have asked for our material so that they can be preaching the gospel more in their area. We have people over there in Africa that has called me, inviting me to come over there. They watch our program. Now, here's the point I'm trying to get to. Is it a profitable work if you have somebody that is preaching and casting the seed? Yes or no?
It will always be profitable.
It will always be profitable. Are we doing exactly what God intended for us to do?
As long as we are, He'll give the increase.
So it's not about our judgment if something is successful or not because we don't have the conversion rate. right? That's not it.
No.
If we are bringing out the word, if we are teaching the word to the world, is it profitable? Absolutely it is.
Absolutely.
And that gets on my last nerve. And I hate to put it that way. When people say, well, it's too risky because we don't have the conversion rate like what we do in other countries, so we're not going to support that. It's like a lost cause.
They're souls too.
They
need it too.
Absolutely they do.
Just because they're more hesitant than other countries are doesn't mean they are any less worth it.
Yes.
By saying they are not worth it because it is too risky, you have condemned their souls to hell.
Absolutely
You've said their souls are not worth saving.
And if we're not, and we think about, okay, well, we're putting money into something, but it's not growing the way I want it to grow. Therefore, it's unprofitable. We're wasting our money.
See, you can send $1,000 a year to Africa, and you can have 200 baptisms and feed that preacher and his family for the whole year, if not longer. But sending $5,000 a month to Canada and maybe get 1, maybe 2 baptisms a year, you might get lucky if you can get 10 Bible studies the whole year outside of the normal services, and that's not worth it. To me, sending that $5,000 to Canada is going to be a lot more worth it than sending that $1,000 to Africa, because other people can do that, but not a lot of people are willing to send it to Canada. We're not willing to send somebody that costs a lot more money, that need more than just rice and beans to live on, to go to some first world country and preach the gospel.
The fact is that we've got to come to grips with every single soul is of same importance.
Exactly.
I mean, you strip away our cultural aspects. You strip away our physical aspects. You strip away our bodies, everything of that nature. What are you left with? You're left with a soul.
And that's it.
And that soul is no different than your own. So no wonder the Lord says, love others the way you love yourself. No wonder he says that.
We're running out of time here.
We really are.
Let's get into what I call some possible solutions.
Yes.
What does the first verse of Psalms 23 say?
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
I shall not want. I shall not want anything in this life. I shall not want any material thing. I think as Christians we need to really show that. We've gotten used to this society of, I need that big truck so I can start my own business and make millions of dollars every year. I need that fast car. I need that broken down jalopy so I can fix it up and then take it drag racing every weekend. We have a lot of stuff. I need that graphics card so I can finish my computer.
Let me iterate a verse here. In Luke chapter 12, the Lord was teaching a multitude of people. And then I want you to think about this. This man, out of this whole discourse of Jesus teaching, right, just all of a sudden interrupts what the Lord's saying to focus on the material. And watch what happens. It says in Luke chapter 12, verse 13, then one from the crowd said to him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. But he said to him, Man, who made me a judge or an arbiter over you? And he said to them, look at verse 15, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses. I don't know how much clearer the Lord could have put it.
Oh, no.
Because the fact is, do we want to be rich in this world, or do we want to be rich to God?
We should be rich to God.
That's what a Christian's supposed to be. Because the fact of the matter is, he then goes into this whole rich fool parable, right? And just for sake of time, I'm not going to read all of it, but this is how he ends everything up with this. He says, in verse number 20, but God said to him, "Fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then whose will these things be which you have provided?" All these possessions, these tearing down of barns to build bigger barns, all this other stuff. And he says that I will say to my soul, "Soul, you have brought about all this." He put God out of the whole entire equation, right? But physically, this man was absolutely rich. But the main question that he asked was this: tonight your soul's going to be required of you. He says, then who are these things going to be that you have provided? And then he concludes with this: so is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God. I mean, I think that's the best analogy, best scripture, I think, in my own thought, that we could use for this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
That life does not consist of the things which he possessed, because just as Job said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither, right? Paul said that we came into this world, and it is certain that we cannot take anything out. I mean, if that is absolutely the case, and right here in Luke chapter 12, he makes very, very clear about covetousness, right? I like the way Paul said it, and I think it's in the book of Colossians, where he says, covetousness, which is idolatry. I think we need to ask ourselves, as well as everybody that's listening to this podcast, this one simple question: who's your God?
Therefore, we should separate ourselves from the desires of this world.
Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. 1 John 2:15.
If we can learn to separate ourselves from the desires of this world, we can show people what salvation can bring us.
Absolutely.
Because if we show that there is something greater beyond this world, and we don't need the things of this world, like it's nice having this phone. It's nice having the internet so we can do this podcast. It's nice having an iPad with the Bible literally at my fingertips. I can search anything that I want. But if we don't learn to separate ourselves from the desires, and if we're not consistently doing that across the brotherhood, we'll never reach anyone. We'll never show anyone in the first world I can do without, because I know what I'm getting later.
Is it possible, let me ask you this question, Noah, is it possible for us on the outside to be very blessed, but inside spiritually we are nothing but bones?
Absolutely.
I mean, it almost seems like that even our Lord even said in a particular place in the Gospels that they seem good on the outside, but inside they are nothing more than empty tombs. I mean, if the Lord stated it, you know it's reality. We can be as rich on the outside as possible, but inside, nothing but bare bones. Have you ever thought about why the Lord even uses these words, hunger and thirst, in reference to spiritual things? Why do you think he did that?
Because those are the things that we need.
Okay, so the fact is, our spiritual side, as well as our physical side, needs nourishment, needs food to survive, water to survive. And so if you are thinking about food and water and how desperate we need that to survive physically, think about that spiritually. There's two sides of a man. There's the physical side and the spiritual side. Our physical side may be great, but our spiritual side may be bare bones. And whose fault is it?
It'd be our own fault.
Our own.
Because we're the ones that feed ourselves. We're the ones in charge of feeding ourselves.
That's right.
That's unfortunately all the time that we have. We're a good bit over, but I'm glad we still did talk. This has been Christ in Culture, and we want to thank you for listening. Please share this with everyone that you know. Share this with your friends. Share this with your parents.
Can I end with one verse?
Sure.
Matthew chapter 5. If you have your Bibles, please just turn there just real quick. I think it'd be a perfect way of just taking this whole thing off. Matthew chapter 5, verse number 3, as Christ starts his ministry, he says this, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." The very first teaching words of Christ talks about being poor in spirit. If we never come to the point of where we see that, spiritually speaking, we're nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We have need of everything.
Mm-mm.
We'll never come to grips with life.
Nope. Thank you for listening today. God bless.